Before we begin, I want to do a super special thanks to our sponsor, which is Squarespace. I'm gonna bring the microphone nice and close to my mouth because now it sounds super cinematic. Squarespace is a web building platform where you can host and design your own websites with incredibly award-winning templates. Personally, I've been using Squarespace for a long time, but more about that later. Let's get into the actual video. Let's go to Auckland Airport. Back in time. Have you ever worked on a film or project and wondered, oh my God, how is this video going to assemble together? You have like a massive, diverse selection of shots, everything from like tops of mountains to drone shots flying through fields and footage of you trying to search for a cell phone. Jordan's phone fell out of his pocket from what was a fun, playful sequence now is a disaster. Okay, so I've had some time to spend at the airport, a little over like 4 or 5 hours. And in that time, I started like editing our New Zealand trip video. I started putting it together, assembling everything, and it's looking super cool. One of the most difficult things that happens whenever you're trying to assemble a movie together, especially like a travel film or some sort of experiential thing, is you have a bunch of different scenes, a bunch of different things going on, but it's really difficult to figure out, well, what is the through line? What is the thing that assembles it? And I realized that it's something that I like to call the vessel. Now, the vessel is something that I like to think of as like a common theme, something that ties together the most abstract or the most random of coverage or story. It's something that is a through line. And for example, what I started using for my latest short film on New Zealand was the idea of this thing. This one thing that I got about a month ago, this napkin, is what I'm going to use to assemble that entire story together. Because this has a common theme. This is a message. This is a narrative. As much as it seems kind of strange that it's on a napkin, there's something here. Okay, so what the napkin does is the napkin has a list of directions on it. And those directions were given to me, a little bit of story time, were given to me by some flight attendants on a prior airplane ride that I was on. I was going to New Zealand and I was asking them, hey, do you guys have any suggestions of places I should look at? And surely enough, they gave me a whole list of directions of places to go check out, things to go see, burgers to go eat, things not to see. And so between their list of directions and their sort of like landmarks that they wrote on a napkin, we were able to construct the vast majority of our trip. Now I thought, well, what happens if we also constructed the vast majority of our narrative utilizing that napkin? There's a bit of a cool story behind it, and it's kind of a tangible thing that I could film and use as my vessel or as my theme of my story. So using and implementing that, I'm using that to sort of help weave together my story. Now, here's the thing about vessels also. You can start with them, and if they're not working for you and they're not helping you out, maybe they were just really good motivators to get that story off the ground, and then maybe you found something else along the way. That also happens to me a lot of the time too. What I start using as like storytelling tools, that'll act as sort of like my foundations, and then the foundations aren't as strong as I wanted, so then I'll change it up. So you don't have to use this one thing. You don't have to use a napkin if that's like your vessel from the very beginning. If you could get midway through, you're like, man, I really want to start using maps. Well, then switch over to maps and just change it up and appreciate the fact that you were able to have something to get your project off the ground. The vessel is an incredible tool to get your project off the ground. But you know what else is amazing to get yourself off the ground? An incredible website. Before we leave this little extra B-roll segment that I shot because I needed to fill in the gaps because I didn't shoot enough at the airport, I want to talk about the sponsor of this video, which is Squarespace. Squarespace is an incredible award-winning design website platform for you to build your websites. Personally, I've been using Squarespace for over 5 years now. I've hosted my entire company websites
off of Squarespace. For our business blackout media, we've been using Squarespace's award-winning template and designs to host and show off our work. To me, I can be very picky when it comes to design and style. I've worked on plenty of other website platforms that I've been spending hours on just doing tiny minute details and never getting the image and look that I wanted, that I thought best represented our brand. Using Squarespace, my team and I were able to spend a few hours and get the exact look that we wanted to represent our entire company, our entire business, again, within a few clicks. Now, again, I would love for you guys to try this out. I think having a website and having a platform that is slick and a great design and just sort of a host and hub of all of your work is incredibly important as an artist. So if you guys are interested, you can use the promo code that's flashing in front of the screen right now and use that as a discount at checkout. But with all that being said, there's more stuff that I'm talking about at the airport, so we will flick transition ourselves out of this. Ready?
What the relation is between this and telling a story is this is creating a sort of an semblance of the story that I'm going to work on. And I think that's something that's hugely missed when it comes to assembling the story or a narrative of a travel film, is the fact that whenever you start putting these pieces together, sometimes it just sort of feels like a bunch of loose ends put together with cool transitions rather than an actual story. And finding the story of your travel movie or whatever it is can sometimes be a really fun process and a lot more helpful in the editing process. And that's why I like to use a thing called a vessel, or a napkin, or a piece of paper, or even like a list of titles or something. It's something that puts together a story with consistency. Now that consistency can be just an ongoing theme that keeps repeating itself. That's what sometimes people use characters for, or different little motifs. You can use like a transition style, or you can use like a type of music. You even use a type of character that assembles the story together. You think of it as like, it's your story or your message or your footage needs a package to go into, and your vessel is something that can carry your story and carry your footage and take it somewhere.
800.
This is Canada. So what can you use as a vessel? What is something that can construct a story together? I'll list a few things. One can be a napkin with a list of directions on it. Another thing could be like a map. One could be like a notebook resembling a journal. Another thing could be literally like flipping through the channels on a station. Essentially, this is the thing that flips you from shot to shot. Rather than using trendy transitions or plug and play music transitions, you're actually using a tool to assemble that narrative. One of my favorite, most recent ones that I did was this double exposure effect. Let this be a reminder to filter out the noise and be in the moment. So what does this all mean? Do you need to have a vessel, a napkin, a piece of paper, some sort of theme to tie your story together? Not really, but it definitely is a fun trick to play around with, and it can enhance your stories immensely. Now, not every video needs that, and that theme, that thing that ties it together can literally be, oh wow, the sound sounds so much better in here. But overall, you don't need a thing or tool or item or piece of paper or napkin to tie together your story. Sometimes having talk to camera moments, having some sort of motivation can do the work for you, but I highly recommend playing around with it. Rather than going to like a default plug-in transition, try out doing like a theme, a story, a thing to tie together. And if you guys are curious of some sort of vessels that you can incorporate into your story, I've added some ideas in the description below. I might be using them for future videos, but we can do the same thing together. That's all. That's basically the whole video. For those of you who like the footage that you saw within this video and want to take a look at some more, or perhaps have more questions about vessels and storytelling and putting all these things together, write that in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, it'd be awesome for you to hit subscribe. That would mean a whole heck of a lot. You don't have to do that, but anyway, I have a flight to catch. People are watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.